VigilanteWilliamson here with a very simple question, and that is Teofimo Lopez actually going to retire after beating Josh Taylor, really dog walking Josh Taylor for the WBO 140-pound title? Probably not, but he might. And ironically enough, I recorded a video a few days ago that I never got to put out because there was so many more controversial things coming out Teofimo's mouth, from him having issues with his dad, saying he doesn't want to live, and that's why he said what he said about Josh Taylor. Ironically enough, he apologized after winning, and Josh took it as a pretty good sport, but there was so much stuff going on. I said, you know what? I'm going to wait until the post-fight. This video is not just talking about Teofimo's comments and some of the stuff that's been said, but also the fight, my thoughts on the fight, and thoughts on the 140-pound division, in which kind of bleeds over to 135, especially in this day and age with a lot of people going up. It seems like a generation at 135 is starting to start to go up, but some may go back and forth. We'll see about that. Anyways, Teofimo looked good in the fight. Especially the second half. The first half was pretty close, but he just kind of out-athletic Josh Taylor, and he didn't low IQ it as much as he did in the George Kambosos fight. Not to say he didn't have times where he took time off during the fight. Not to say he didn't have times where he went for the right hand. And he did still do a lot of single punching. Not a lot of combinations, even though he had some effective ones, or at least some ones that gave Josh Taylor trouble. So it was a really cool fight. It was cool to see, as much as the controversial things that he said. And let me be honest, let me be frank, and let me keep it real. I picked Josh Taylor to win because I thought Teo was just too erratic.
Aim for death, for that's where life begins.
He's too erratic mentally, but he was able to put it together. And, you know, maybe it's just that, you know, he is a guy who's been boxing since a kid. Sometimes when your life is crazy, you know, the thing you love the most is the therapy for it. And maybe there was some of that there where he could, because everything is so crazy, it's easier to focus. I think anyone who has a hobby or a passion has been there. So maybe that was the case, but he was very much more of a smarter fighter than he's been in some of his recent fights, despite some of the erraticism. So ironically enough, Teofimo, despite being the guy who recently came up from 135, had harder issues as far as making weight goes. Josh Taylor made weight by a pound, but I thought I saw an interview, I want to say seconds out, saying that he already gained 16 pounds. This is right before the fight. In the weight after the weigh-in, and so maybe he's also having issues making 140. Maybe he stayed at 140 too long. Maybe he's starting to age. Like I said, he just looked just a hair slow, and he didn't have timing, and he kind of got his timing downloaded. He didn't throw enough volume. Also, there was a long layoff. He hadn't fought in 16 months. And he's doing a new trainer, and it's like maybe that just was all too much for Teo, even in whatever state he's in. It's just you're doing too much. As good as you've been, you're doing too much. And so I think there's something to be said about that, but no excuses. Teofimo really put on a show the second half, and the New York crowd loved it, so that was pretty cool. And what they now call the Hulu Theater, I just know it's a part of MSG. So that was cool. I gotta give him his credit. I've been critical of him. I'm still critical of him. And if you want to, you can criticize his stamina, his gas tank a little bit as well. He was just happy to get the win. He did try for a stoppage at times though, especially later in the fight. But not only that, he took time off. I said that earlier. So there's something to be said about his gas tank and his volume output. Maybe against another fighter, maybe against a better fighter. Not to say Josh Taylor is not a good fighter, by the way. I mean, he was the champion. He was undisputed champion before he got stripped because of that layoff. And, you know, whatever controversy with the Jack Cattrall fight, which he probably should have lost. But, again, Teo, you know, his performance was good, but it was not perfect. So if you want to nitpick, you can nitpick at it, especially going against, or when you project against, you know, further competition like Tank, maybe Shakur if he ever moves up. Even Devin Haney, and anyone else. And, you know, and in fact, when you talk about the retirement angle, I honestly think there's some validity to it being an option. I don't think he's actually going to take it. Maybe he's just some time off. But I think he might need to retire. I think he might be having not just psychological issues, but physio-psychological issues coming from boxing. I think there's a chance that he has CTE, given some of the stuff he said, especially, you know, not wanting to live himself. I think that's consistent with people with CTE, especially when you add that stress. So I think emotionally and physically, you know, mentally, he could be dealing with something. I know people don't really want to hear that in this generation, because so many people use it as an excuse. Oh, mental health, mental health. And then there's cases where there's some validity there. I keep thinking about Antonio Brown after that Vontae Burfict hit. He's never been the same. And it's like, you know what? I'm not trying to give him an excuse for all his erratic behavior. Not saying that everything he's done has been okay, but it's like, hey, he had a very extreme event happen to him, and no, he's not going to be okay after that. And I think just in general, boxers, you know, no matter who you are, take so much damage. It's going to have some effect. I mean, we know Riddick Bowe is a guy who has a lot of issues. We know what happened with Muhammad Ali, though. If you're a little con Theo, you know that him and his brother both got Parkinson's, and there's no genetic trait. I'm getting off track. My point is, a lot of people are going to have issues if you're in a combat sport, if you're in a very violent sport, if you sustain closed head injuries. That is a common thing, and there is a case that Teo might be going through it, especially on top of that, going through a very bitter and crazy divorce. So that's a lot of stimuli, you know, that's a lot. You know what I mean? Not excusing all the stuff he said, not taking back some of my criticism of what he said, but just being understanding and just like, okay, I understand why he might be saying it. Should he retire? He should see a specialist. He should see someone who is a medical professional and maybe a psychological professional to make sure he's good, and then go from there. You know, take their advice, weigh out how he feels, and go from there. I think that's the best thing. Is he going to retire? I think Tank is the next fight. I think his dad's already said that, so it'll probably be him and Tank. That would be good. That would be good. Honestly, between Tank fighting Devin Haney and Teofimo, I'd rather see him fight Teofimo. I mean, I thought Josh Taylor would present much more of a threat than he actually did. I much rather see Teofimo and Tank. I think that would be a much more interesting build. We'll see what happens. I would pick Tank in that. I would pick Tank again against Devin Haney, but I don't really, you know, Devin Haney is not that good to watch. It's just the truth, man. I'm not trying to be funny. And, you know, I'm trying to expand my coverage. I don't want to just cover boxing. I want to cover UFC. But, of course, it's the same night, and it was a good event, and I missed it. And so I got to go check up on what happened to UFC. And so to do that for, like, a Devin Haney fight, it's like, nah, I'm not going to do it. Just being honest. Just being honest. To all the people who thought I was some Devin Haney shill, it's like, nah, man. You know, I'm just calling that fight how I see it, not to bring up cans of worms. But anyways, what do you think about the fight? What do you think about Teo's mind state? What do you think about Josh Taylor? Where is he going in his career after this? And what do you think about the retirement? Do you think it's legitimate? Do you think he's just going to take time off? Do you think he's just going to wait until Tank comes home and we'll have a fight before the end of the year? What do you guys think? You let me know. If you like the video, please like the video. If you're so obliged to share and subscribe, please do that. But even if you do none of these things, thank you for watching and thank you for your time. Good night and God bless. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.